About 20% were African American, nearly 35% Hispanic, 5% Asian, and 40% women. Prior experience with respiratory virus.
Sorry, we went offline there for a second, kids. That was weird. Are we back? Are we back? What's happening? Am I being... Yeah.
Viruses and some data that have emerged globally suggest that convalescent plasma has the potential to lessen the severity or shorten the length of the illness caused by COVID-19.
We dropped off for a second. That was odd. YouTube froze and went away? Yeah, I saw something like that.
The results from Mayo underscore that promise. As you can see, the Trump administration and the FDA led on identifying convalescent plasma as a therapeutic, and the results are encouraging. Finally, I wanted to share some more.
No, my stream didn't die, and it wasn't going out this way because it stayed on Periscope, I think, but something else. It might be a restream thing. This is what happens when I try to be all things to all people. It's just hard. I'm sorry. But hi, welcome back.
It's from President Trump. Juneteenth reminds us of both the unimaginable injustice of slavery and the incomparable joy that must have attended emancipation. It is both a remembrance of a blight on our history and a celebration of our nation's unsurpassed ability to triumph over darkness. That ability is rooted.
All right. Can we stop using unimaginable for things that are clearly imaginable?
In the fundamental goodness of America and the truths upon which we as a nation declared an end to our status as the subjects of a monarch and emerged as a free and independent people. Those truths that all men are created equal by the hand of God, endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that, I'll take questions.
I just wanted to throw in God and the assumption that the Christian God is who we're talking about, when we all know that the District of Columbia is based on Athenic gods, and we are all children of Zeus. But there you go. Yes, I'm back.
Mario.
Thank you, Kaylee. I'm wondering, given what we're seeing in markets, and they're a little bit jittery given a rise in cases, any reason why the coronavirus task force hasn't been coming out to update us? Will they? And then also have...
Really? You're going to ask me about the coronavirus task force? Excuse me. I wore my shredded top today. We were supposed to get through Friday without you being able to. People were saying that I wasn't drawing enough attention to my crucifix because it's too tiny and I hide it when the lies are really big. But I decided to wear my perforated upper top today because it's Friday. Let's party.
They've been consulted on the rally for tomorrow.
So the coronavirus task force meets regularly. They're constantly reviewing data. They're constantly working with governors to ensure that we have safe reopenings across the nation.
Yeah, no, you don't.
As for coronavirus task force briefings, those happened in the very early days of COVID-19 and the pandemic. We were making major decisions on travel bans, major decisions on supplies and PPE and therapeutics. And it was very important that those decisions be shared with the nation. Now we're in a more regular routine where when we see a spike or an ember, an
ember, a crystal, something. If there's possibly some kindling.
The president calls them, we're able to quickly
as the president calls them,
go and put it out.
Yeah, sorry, the internet sucks today, guys. It's kind of aggravating. I'm gonna tweet out the link again for the live part of it. We should be all right. In theory. Hair is very flat today, and I don't know I can't do anything with it. I was just messing around with kittens, and it's just a mess. So here we are. We're back to we're back.
And we have that system in place. We don't have regular updates for you other than the updates I give you as news merits, and I'm regularly in consultation with Dr. Birx and the others.
And the others, which no longer includes Dr. Fauci, because oh my God, did you hear what he said about Oklahoma? Never.
Yes, Steve.
Kaylee, two questions for you. First, on the president's tweet this morning regarding the Tulsa rally, when he said, what did he mean when he said any protesters wouldn't be treated like they were in New York, Seattle, and Minneapolis? Is the president indicating that the right to peaceably assemble should not apply to his rally?
No, that's not at all what he was saying. What the president was noting is that there were inexcusable scenes that we saw play out in New York and Seattle and Minneapolis, and that we would not see Tulsa, Oklahoma look that way. As the Mayor Bynum noted,
You mean the mayor who put in a 2-day curfew beforehand to quell those problems, and the president insisted that he remove them, even though it was the Secret Service that asked for those 2 days before to have none of that? All right.
individuals from organized groups who have been involved in destructive and violent behavior in other states are planning to travel to the city of Tulsa for the
Well, of course they are. It's a Trump rally.
purposes
Oh, you mean the Antifa type people? I see. I thought you meant the actual. All right.
causing unrest.
Where are the Boogaloo's going to go if they're not going to Tulsa? I mean, sometimes you want to be out in the field. Sometimes you got to just you got to touch home base.
In and around the rally.
Thanks, NCIS to Doctor Who.
And that was an unacceptable proposition. We will not see things like what we saw in Minnesota, where rioters lit an AutoZone on
Venezuela.
fire, or also in Minnesota, where protesters torched a police precinct, or in Seattle, where they've now set up a place called CHOP. They've taken over a part of the city. Anarchists have.
It's called Chaz, and the Z stands for zone, and the rest of it is like hope and Aryan. I don't know what it is, but it's super great, and it's basically an open air market and volleyball yoga studio for date rapists and buskers. Where else are they supposed to go in Washington State? Out in the woods? Get over yourself. There's no signal out there.
Pillaging or the ambushing of 2 NYPD police officers who were on looting watch. One was stabbed in the neck and then shot 2 other officers who later arrived on the scene. So those kinds of scenes are unacceptable, and we will not see that in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, what about the Air Force guy who was a boogaloo who was trying to call for violence against police officers who was busted? You going to bring him up at all? No, not at all?
I mean, all protesters?
No, what he was meaning are violent protesters, anarchists, looters, the kind of lawlessness that we saw play out before President Trump came in with the National Guard and calmed our streets with...
I mean, before Terrence Floyd came out and said, hold up the peace sign, this is not what my brother would have wanted, and if you want to show your love and respect for George Floyd, you won't loot and destroy buildings. You mean that? Oh, you mean after that happened and it was already... The number of incidents was going down already because of his statement. You bring in the National Guard afterwards, you can claim credit. I see.
On order.
And just the second question, sorry.
They're using CHOP now? I don't know. I think they're going to have a vote on that Capitol Hill organization protest. They wish. The word I have the most argument with is the word organization.
DACA, the president again tweeted this morning that he was going to move ahead with trying to end that program. What is the time frame on that? When should we expect to see something from the Department of Homeland Security on that? And why is the president doing that, even when he has conceded that he believes that the immigrants who were brought here as
Sorry, you lost me halfway through your sentence.
no fault of their own should be taken care of?
I'm not sure which page of lies I'm supposed to go to. Can you start at the beginning of the middle?
So first, one note on DACA. One thing I would say about yesterday's ruling is that really this...
Really? Look, illegals...
was a situation where you had all of the justices saying that President Trump was essentially right on the law on DACA. You had the majority, and the majority opinion...
Really?
Quote, the dispute before the court is not whether DHS may rescind DACA. All parties agree that it may be rescinded. The dispute is instead primarily about the procedure the agency followed in doing so. So in other words...
In other words, you can attack it on merit because we live in a democracy and you're able to actually do that. It's just that you created your legal argument with frozen turds as crayons, and it's a bunch of gibberish, and go home and learn how to actually govern.
President Trump was right on the law here. It was unlawful the way President Obama went about this, but as for the way forward...
Oh, really? Was it? Well, then why, if it was that easy, then why wouldn't you just file something and it just goes away?
I just was in and was speaking with the president and the chief of staff about this, and we're looking at documents currently, and we're going to move forward in a responsible way.
Yeah.
And cure some of...
No, you're not.
...the remedies and the unlawful...
Nope.
That we see it with the previous memo that brought DACA into place, but we want to find a compassionate.
The unlawfulness. That's what it was. It was an illegal memo that apparently the Supreme Court said had more legal standing than your bullshit argument. Huh?
Way to do this. So that's the notes I have as to how we'll be moving forward.
The notes. I have notes on how this, people's lives hang in the balance, and what people I personally like to refer to as undocumented Americans who've lived here almost their entire lives would like to, as they go to their jobs in high-risk industries and what we would call, I would argue crucial food preparation, medical jobs, nurses, soldiers. But, let them live on the margins so that in case we want them to do all the work and then kick them out once we don't need it anymore. That's really what we're shooting for. Aren't we, Jesus woman?
Thank you, Kaylee. Now that we're about 24 hours away from this rally tomorrow in Tulsa, you have the World Health Organization director saying that the world is in a new and dangerous phase in terms of COVID cases. You have cases rising.
Excuse me. I don't know if you've heard me, but
Oklahoma, you have the Tulsa mayor declaring a civil emergency. Given all of this together, are there any...
Look at those clacking cameras, getting a picture of her while she's listening to this question.
...discussions, any reservations within the West Wing about going forward with this?
Yeah, totally, Carl. It's very important that the president stand up for the silent uber minority, the 15% of Americans who are against DACA.
Indoor rally tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a new stream. Smash the like. Sorry we got bumped off. Internet issue. Welcome back. Hi. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a good show. Happy Friday.
State where COVID cases are on the rise.
Well, first, let me note about the civil emergency. Bynum declared a civil emergency after law enforcement informed the mayor about the individuals from the organized groups that I just noted who are intent on engaging in destruction.
And the Secret Service told him to have a curfew for 2 nights beforehand, and the president made him take it off?
With regard to Oklahoma, I would refer you to Governor Stitt's comments. He said yesterday we went to phase 3 on June 1st, so we're 50.
Uh-huh. Have you looked at the chart of growth of cases?
56 days.
Oh, thanks, Flank Doodle.
Into our reopening plan, and currently we have under 200 people in the hospital across Oklahoma, and he welcomed the president and his supporters for coming.
I guess my question is, behind the scenes, are there any White House officials, just expressing a bit of reservation about...
No, because they're not listening to Dr. Fauci anymore.
...forward 24 hours out?
So we are all on board with going to Oklahoma. We're taking appropriate measures like hand sanitizing and temperature checks and masks being provided at the door.
Yeah, being febrile is not any indication of whether or not you have COVID-19 or not. It gives a false reading and a false sense of security if you don't have a fever. Birx is out of her mind with this whole influenza-like illness bullshit.
But I'd also note to you from the governor of Oklahoma that he says that most of the cases...
Don't listen to the mayor of Tulsa. He's only in charge of those people. The governor is in charge of getting reelected again, and 2 senators they don't deserve.
...are in the 18 to 35 group where they're seeing a slight increase, and they are... asymptomatic individuals, a lot of what they're seeing. And in addition to that, I would also just note that he said that this slight increase was expected as they began to safely reopen 56 days prior. Jen? Yes. So hopefully, I'll limit you to 20 questions today. How about that?
Thanks, Kaylee. Will any White House officials be at the rally tomorrow?
There will be several White House officials at the rally tomorrow.
Will those officials, or will you be there, for example?
I will be there.
Will you and other White House officials be wearing masks at the rally?
It's a personal choice. I won't be wearing a mask. I can't speak for my colleagues.
And why won't?
Why not? Aren't you the spokesperson for the White House? He asked you about White House personnel, and you said they're going to be there. Why can't you speak for them? Can we have a list of who's wearing a mask and who isn't, and why?
Wear a mask? Is it sort of...
Or why not, I guess, is the better question.
A personal political statement? Is it because the president would be disappointed in you if you don't wear a mask?
It's a personal decision. I'm tested regularly. I feel that it's safe for me not to be wearing a mask. And
yeah, you wear a mask so you don't give it to other people, and so you don't touch your face by getting it. If you've been tested, you know you're not going to give it to other people, but you can catch it, and you're going to be in a room with tens of thousands of people who are idiots.
In compliance with CDC guidelines, which are recommended but not required.
I'm sure there's 9 people there who will be wearing masks. Though they aren't idiots. They're just morally and politically misguided and broken inside. I'm talking about the idiots who won't wear a mask and are showing up in a crowd of 30, 40,000 people. Thanks, Eileen, for the character cheerfully blowing a party horn sticker. I appreciate that. And thanks for the Sparkle JMTSQ.
Last night, the president tweeted out some fake videos, one of which was labeled manipulated media by Twitter. Why is the president sharing fake videos on Twitter about 2 toddlers who are obviously showing a lot of love for one another? It seems as though he's exploiting children to make some sort of crass political point. Why is he sharing fake videos?
He was making a point about CNN specifically. He was making a point that CNN has regularly taken him out of context. Oh
yeah, that's the word. He gets taken out of context.
2019, CNN misleadingly aired a clip from one viewpoint repeatedly to falsely accuse the Covington boys of being, quote, students in MAGA gear harassing a Native American elder. That's a harassing video, a misleading video about children that had really grave consequences for their future.
So it's because he believes that they did that with the Covington kids, it's okay for him to do it.
So you're saying it's okay to exploit 2 toddlers hugging one another on a sidewalk to make some sort of political point? As you know, the president has described members of the press as fake news during the course of this administration. When you share fake videos like that, doesn't that make you fake news?
Are you kidding? Her job is fake news.
I think the president was making a
go out and fake the news.
Satirical point that was quite funny if you go and actually watch the
Adorable
video. I think he was making a satire. The point is it was a play on CNN repeatedly taking the president out of context. Like the time when you guys had a chyron that read, "Trump slammed some illegal immigrants. They're animals." Well, guess what? The people we called animals were MS-13 illegal immigrants who regularly mutilate people in this country. Those things are entirely misleading.
You don't mind pointing out the president has referred to some Mexican immigrants as rapists. He has tried to pass a Muslim ban in this country. He has described black NFL players as sons of bitches if they take a knee during a football game.
That's an absurd attempt to justify the misleading headlines that are regularly on your network. Like I was just walking in, watching CNN as they lauded the quote rallies in the streets.
Are you saying that the president
gotta let me finish, Jim? This isn't a cable news segment. I'm answering your
cold-blooded
question right now from the White House podium. When I walk out of here, when I walk out here, Jim, and I see on your network celebratory headlines about the rallies and the protests outside, and you actually said protests and rallies. So in light of a protest, if these gatherings happen in light of a protest or a rally, as you say, that rally is to be condoned, but not the president's rally. I mean,
yeah, there's a difference between a spontaneous rally or a protest or a gathering to peaceably assemble, especially in light of the violent ones that have been happening. If people are kind of coalescing around a positive message and they're spontaneously choosing to do so, and more than likely wearing masks, being a little more careful, being aware that there are people close to them, and setting up on purpose in advance an indoor gathering in a stadium that is unnecessary but for the ego of the asshole throwing it.
You have one person on your network saying that,
well, open-topped.
This is a celebration in the streets, a carnival-like atmosphere. There's a guy with a sign that says free hugs. It's beautiful what's happening in the streets. There is music. People are hugging. You celebrate hugging in the context of a protest, but in a Trump rally where we celebrate historic low African-American unemployment, criminal justice reform, HBCUs, that rally's not allowed because guess what, Jim? It doesn't fit the ideological agenda of CNN. Peter Alexander.
Let me ask if I can. Why does the president keep hiring people who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent?
Oh my, you said that right to her face? Excuse me. First of all, those are the check boxes on her resume. Secondly, all right.
So the president makes hiring decisions based on the fact that he
Thanks, Eileen.
likes to have countervailing viewpoints. I spoke to him.
Oh, countervailing. I like to have the opposing viewpoint. So I have my viewpoint, and then I find some barking mad pseudo-intellectual psychopath, and that's kind of the counterpoint I like to have. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm the sanest person in the world. Find me someone who's certifiable.
This morning about the hiring of John
Find me a wacko so I can bounce my ideas off them.
Bolton in particular, and he said,
And everyone else he lets go.
I like
Rex Tillerson, anyone?
to counterbalance my own opinion with
With people who are nuts.
individuals that oftentimes have the very opposite opinion of my own. He likes
Like, I want to, find me somebody who thinks the earth is round. I would like to hash this shit out.
the model of having a team of rivals, like what we saw in
A team of rivals. That's what it is. That's why he's been brooming everybody from the Obama administration because they're the deep state. A team of rivals.
President Lincoln's administration.
Oh, it's so much like President Lincoln's administration. It's more like the John Wilkes Booth administration.
I've been a part of that. I often see rigorous debate, and the president uses his gut and makes the best decision as to how to
Oh, is that where they come from? No wonder he makes big decisions.
move forward. So that's what goes into his hiring practices, and I think
Thanks, Raphael.
the team of rivals with President Lincoln worked quite well.
There's obviously value in hiring a team of rivals. It's worked well in the past. But then if you're going to hire rivals, why hire rivals who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent? How does that help
Well,
the
sometimes
president
those
govern the
rivals
country?
prove those labels to be true, and
But
that's
he says he hires the
particularly
best
true
people,
in
so
the
does it
that's
reflect on the
particularly
president,
true in the case of John Bolton, who repeatedly praised the president, then turned. He's
Yeah, that's wacko. I would argue that the fact that he praised the president shows that he is certifiable. I mean, that's, if anything qualifies as wacko.
been widely criticized by the New York Times for his book. I think John Bolton has proven himself to have those labels as true.
Let me follow up. Just
Yes.
Jim, just on Juneteenth, Kaylee, it's important. If I can follow up quickly, just on Juneteenth, if I may.
We're
it's
not going to get
important.
to everyone in the room. The 20 question rule applies to everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I'll take the 20 questions if it applies to everyone. Then I've only done 2 so far. For my third one, I'd like to ask, does the president support
She loves him.
Juneteenth as a federal holiday? And yesterday, in an interview with the Wall
I don't have a page for that.
Street Journal this week, the president was
Thank
speaking
him.
about Juneteenth, and he said that nobody had ever heard of Juneteenth. What does that say about the president's relationship to the black community if he would say that when millions of African Americans in this country commemorate it each year?
Well,
Look, what I mean is no Republicans have heard of it, and why should they?
what I would say is this president's routinely commemorated Juneteenth. The president, what he
Has he? Really? What did he get you last year?
that is
He said he learned about it this week.
what the no, he did not say that. As Secretary Carson emphasized, I talked to the president about the Juneteenth event. I was pleasantly surprised about how much he knew about it, the whole history of it. He did not just learn about Juneteenth this week. That's simply not true.
When was this conversation? 2 weeks ago? When he had just heard about it? Somebody just told him before, what's this Juneteenth thing? Ben's coming in. I can't talk to the one black person I hired in this administration without knowing. Hi, Ben. I heard Juneteenth is in June. Is that right? It's a black thing. Killing it. I'm killing it.
True. And as to Juneteenth, there were a lot of people who didn't know what Juneteenth was, and Google searches prove that. And you can see, I looked at the chart on Google searches on Juneteenth, and this year they went like this, and that's thanks to
Yeah.
President Trump. Yes.
Because Republicans were like, uh-oh.
I wanted to ask if the White House is planning to issue an executive order in the coming days to suspend visas for foreign workers, and any detail you can provide in terms of what types of visas, for how long that would last, etc.
I'm going to have to check with the HR department at Mar-a-Lago on that one, but I will get back to you.
I have no announcements on that front today. I'm aware of the reporting, but no announcements.
Okay, could I follow up quickly and ask if the president plans to take any health precautions at the rally tomorrow?
We are administering hand sanitizer, masks to those who are in attendance should they decide to wear them, and we are taking temperature checks. Dan.
So people can wear masks on their hands and drink hand sanitizer. We will be coating light bulbs with hand sanitizer and inserting them into the rectums of anyone who enters. Of course, that's completely voluntary, but we expect everyone to line up. That it was Lindsey Graham's idea. Yeah.
Hi, Kaylee. Arizona's seen surging coronavirus cases, as well as Texas and Florida.
Yeah, there was a spike. I wonder what the Google search spike was on Oklahoma COVID cases.
Doesn't think that they should all keep doing what they're doing, or is he concerned about, this rise in cases and how to stop that?
This is a state-led reopening with the assistance of the federal government and our medical experts. So we're regularly consulting with each state. It's their decision as to whether they remain their reopening processes, but we're very confident that they will be able to get it under control. We've had CDC deploy teams to 4 states, and when we see these spikes in cases a lot of times, and we're able to isolate them and stop the spread further. So with the help of the federal government, these states should be able to safely continue reopening, though it is their decision whether.
Yeah, that's a piece of news from a month and a half ago where you guys were behind the 8 ball.
So.
But keep telling that one like Trump says 96% of Republicans are behind him when it's 81 now.
What does the president think of his niece, Mary Trump's new book that's coming out?
Yeah, so on the Mary Trump.
Slut! I have a whole page on Mary Trump.
Book. What I would say is this. I haven't seen the book. The president.
So I would like to say something about it. I haven't read the book. The president hasn't read the book. No one's read the book. But we would like to say that it is full of lies and clearly the sign of a broken mind. And she knows nothing about psychology or, yeah.
Hasn't seen the book, so I'm not going to sit here and speculate about what it may say or what it may not say. David.
Oh, so it's all true, is what you're saying? Okay.
Look at all the hoo-ha over Tulsa. I mean, isn't
hoo-ha? Hoo-ha!
the president taking a big risk?
Oh, I'm gonna have your job, shithead.
This weekend, because if things go south on Saturday, isn't that going to make it harder for him to schedule rallies in the future?
Look, I think that we are confident.
Nah. If he schedules them within 2 weeks before the actual cases start to spike and the death toll goes up, I mean, come on.
That we can operate safely in Tulsa. There are, as I noted at the beginning of this, Governor Stitt said under 200 people are in hospitals across Oklahoma. Most of those, a lot of those, between the ages of 18 and 35. So we're confident that we can do this safely, and we're very much looking forward to going to Oklahoma.
Why haven't y'all scheduled?
Are you now? I'm so excited to go to Oklahoma. This is my dream. That's why I wanted to go work in the White House so I could go to Oklahoma.
Rallies, are y'all waiting to see how things turn out on Saturday?
That would be a question for the campaign. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Kaylee. 2 quick questions.
Then why are you answering questions about it?
In an interview on NPR on Tuesday, Dr. Fauci said he hasn't spoken to the president in, quote, 2 weeks. Why have they gone so long without talking, and is this still a priority for the president, the virus?
Absolutely, it's still a priority. It's why the task force meets regularly. The president is given that information. The vice president has been leading on the task force, and the president ultimately makes the decisions and is constantly kept up to date with the latest numbers.
And then the second question, obviously, the president is very against violent protest. He's spoken out specifically against anti-fascists who've been responsible for some of this violence. But in terms of his personal ideology, is the president an anti-fascist?
The president is absolutely anti-fascist. What he's against also is lawlessness. He's against anarchy. He's against what we've seen.
So the president is a member of Antifa as of today. Cool. Good. All right, great.
In our streets. He's against the fact that
I think he should join Antifa because black is slimming.
You have in a city block in Seattle, multiple city blocks taken over by anarchists. It's amazing. You have the Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best saying, quote, our 911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. There have been rapes, robberies, and all sorts of violent acts that have been occurring. He's against fascism. He's against anarchism. And he is for rule of law.
Anarchism? All right.
In the American way. Christian.
Thanks, Kaylee. The EU nations are starting to ease their travel restrictions between their own borders. Is the president planning on rolling back the EU travel restrictions? He said back in May that they'll probably ease them out sometime in the future.
No.
The president knows that the travel restrictions were a very important component to saving lives. 3 million could have perished, and instrumental
if you did nothing. Stop it.
And taking early action and saving American lives. He monitors the data constantly. No plans now as to lifting those, but it's ultimately the decision of the president. He's guided by data and the safety and health of the American people.
And then on China, sorry, they just
rubber stamp.
Announced that during the negotiations with Secretary Pompeo, they're going to accelerate their ag buys. They weren't meeting the phase 1 ag buys. Does this mean anything for a potential phase 2 deal? Obviously, this stalled the coronavirus, but
I have no announcements on that front. I haven't spoken to the president on that specific matter. Yes.
Because it's baloney.
Back to DACA, if you would, please. After the Supreme Court decision the other day, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement. I'll just read it briefly. Next, we urge the President, President Trump, to strongly reconsider terminating DACA. Immigrant communities are really hurting now amidst COVID-19 and moving forward with this action needlessly.
Is she Catholic or evangelical? I think she's Catholic. Is this meant to be a jab at her? Because it's a good one if it is.
Families into further anxiety and chaos. Will the President consider the bishop's appeal to this?
Well, the
bishop
president said to me, I'm going
Thank you, Holleberry.
to take care of DACA far better than the Democrats ever did. Democrats had 2.5
They created it.
years to make a deal on DACA. They didn't do it. He wants to take care of these individuals,
does he?
but it needs to be done in a lawful way, and it needs to be done in accordance with assuring that our border is safe, that it's
What the
protected.
hell does that have to do with anything? What responsibility is it of the DACA children that a wall be built?
That we have an end to lawless immigration and MS-13.
But yeah, that's okay. So DACA recipients, streamers, once we have an end to illegal immigration, once no human being ever enters the United States through any border, north, south, by land or by sea, then
the havoc that we've seen wreaked in this country. So
Havoc?
he's for a measured response.
so DACA people, if you want this law to pass, go out and murder an MS-13 member in the street. And once we feel like you are serious about this, then we'll think about letting you back.
And he's offered deals to Democrats previously that have been rejected. So Democrats
what was the poison pill in those?
really seem to be using the DACA recipients as pawns, and that is despicable.
Really? Why don't you just then don't worry about it? Then just isolate it to the DACA kids and don't have any other aspect of it. Just go, let's just pass DACA as a bill. No riders, no amendments, no nothing, just as is. We'll just put it up for a vote today. What do you want to bet it passes? What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet who the holdouts are if it doesn't? Do you think it's going to be a bunch of Democrats?
Thank you, Kaylee. Given
Thank you,
the
Kaylee.
campaign had attendees of the rally on Saturday sign a waiver to indemnify the campaign if they should get sick with the coronavirus, would the president consider starting or contributing to a fund for the sick or the bereaved if we see a spike in cases come out of the rally Saturday night?
No, see, the federal government has just dumped trillions of dollars on the economy, and one of the things in the CARE Act and other things is to pick up the cost of people who get sick and need to get tested and the like. So basically, we're going to shovel off that cost of having this rally onto the American taxpayer. You know, kind of like we do with keeping Mar-a-Lago afloat.
That's a hypothetical, and that's a speculative question.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Thank you, Kaylee. Looking towards the election, we know that the Biden campaign is pushing back on adding any additional debates to this schedule. How many debates would the president be willing to participate in?
Yeah, so the president talked about this yesterday. The president is happy to debate when given the opportunity. Right now there are 3 debates, and he's happy with that, but certainly if others were proposed, he'd be willing to look at them. And he very much looks forward to those debates.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
One thing I would note, and I think it's just very important, especially as we go into the weekend and we begin to look at some of the news coverage out there, is that I would encourage all of you to cover the protest in the same way that you covered the rally goers.
Yeah, see, the protests are spontaneous, and they're not organized by any individual or whatever. People aren't called up. There's not fundraising emails sent up, please gather in any organized way, whereas the rally is. It's also optional, because everybody who's going to this Trump rally, every single person is already going to vote for Donald Trump unless they're a protester who's going to do something. Right? Whereas protest and counter-protest is a necessary part of democracy. Everybody who's going to this rally is already a Trump voter. This is just about gathering them in one place and getting them sick.
Really?
And having them spread that illness to, I guess, every other member of their family who doesn't feel the same way they do.
Quite something.
Or even the ones who do, which you might give a shit about.
When you look at this extraordinary video by Media Research Center and Newsbusters, where you have multiple hosts on MSNBC, CNN, and CBS boasting about the, quote, massive crowd. I mean massive. Tens of thousands of people, thousands and thousands, up to 200,000 people, they exuberantly exclaim. Right. But then they have grave concerns about the size of the Trump rallies. You have NBC contributors saying social justice over social distancing, but when the president looks to celebrate the accomplishments for minority and communities in this country.
That's what he's doing. That's why he's doing it in Tulsa. That's why he originally planned it on Juneteenth.
Our rallies are derided as breeding grounds for coronavirus, while...
Because your side doesn't believe in the disease and thinks it's a hoax.
Lawrence O'Donnell celebrates,
said the actress to the bishop,
arm protests. So I really think that we should have internal consistency here in the way we cover large crowds. We should be guided by science, not charity.
Okay, you want to be guided by science? Ask Dr. Fauci whether or not your stupid rally is a good idea, you nutcase. And this is what she's going to leave on, by the way. Look at this, folding up the book of lies and bailing.
Picking science, as I see all too often on the airwaves, especially from CNN.
Especially, oh my God, jeez, irritated. Look at that, just wow, on the way out, like, holy smokes. I'm just amazed there's a brunette working in the White House. As a brunette, I'm, you know, I think there just aren't enough. Why is that not working? That's weird. What are you doing, you weird picture? Excellent. Done. All right, I'll fix this. Hold on. Me. There we are. Sorry. Yeah, she just bails out. Bye. I'm going to check one thing. Oh, yeah, here we go. So, we'll finish up with what we started on, yesterday, that I just could not. I came back on the air last night just to do that extra piece because Trump was on with Don Jr. and if you haven't had a chance to watch that because we aired it last night, it's on the channel. I'll post a link. Just a hideous interview between him and his son. Embarrassing, awkward, just the lack of family connection. Looking at his own son like he's a stranger, looking off camera at somebody else, God knows who. I'm going, hey, it's this guy, right? Yeah, you know this guy? Huh? Which is super weird. Oh, thanks. I'm trying. Oh man, it was embarrassing. It was rough to watch. That said, we jumped into a little bit of the Hannity interview that he had done, and I wanted to go to that when and kind of address some of the things they said in that. So here we go with that business. By the way, see if I can get this page to come up.
President, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, John.
Let me pick up what I was just discussing with Lindsey Graham, and that is,
thanks, Scooter.
Ferguson happened under President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden. Same with Baltimore, Cambridge, all these other incidents. They didn't have any reforms.
By the way, and I touched on this last night at the beginning. Yeah, they did. And you know what happened? Just like the pandemic response team, the Trump administration scuttled them. Justice Department ends program scrutinizing local police forces. This is September 15th, 2017. The Obama administration, in direct response to some of the things that happened during the Obama years, put in place a system to start dealing with these issues. And as soon as they got in, the Trump administration scuttled them, sat with their thumb up their ass for years, ignoring it until it started, until it blew up in their faces and became an overt problem. And then they start pretending that they're going to do stuff by effectively reinstating this stuff and calling it theirs. And this is the same thing with the pandemic response team. You notice they do this all the time. The Obama administration, or even going back to Bush or Clinton, they take programs that have been in place that are working towards solutions in a bunch of different issues, scuttle them, underfund or ignore, or don't put anybody in charge of them, and let them rot on the shelf. And then the reason they were put in place becomes self-evident at some point, overt, literally leading to the largest civil unrest in the United States since the 60s, and in the pandemic, like the worst disease outbreak since the Spanish flu. And suddenly these assholes decide, like, oh, what we're going to do is put together a, wait for it, pandemic response team. We're bringing these people in. You would have had them already there. But it was Obama's idea, so it must have been bad, and so they scuttle it. But so tell me again, good Lord, nobody did anything.
Criminal justice reform happened with you. Historically, black colleges funded more money for a longer period of time. That was...
So you never have to see the people again. The same amount of money that they get, plus a bump based on GDP, I suppose. But scuttling the trio, scuttling all the secondary funding aspects that they get, all the things that were meant to keep graduation rates high, for example, because you don't give a shit about whether people graduate or not. You just want to look like you're writing a check to them.
You as well. And if I look at some of the other opportunity zones, that's all.
Okay, opportunity zones. Can we look at, opportunity zones? First of all, enterprise zones, Clinton, anybody? And opportunity zones. Remember the Obama promise zones? Obama tries to end the cycle of broken poverty promises by creating, wait for it, promise zones. What were the areas for these? Camden, New Jersey, Hartford, Connecticut, Philadelphia, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Curious. Where's the two tribal lands in this? Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Antonio. The low country of South Carolina and southeastern Kentucky are the Appalachian areas. These were primary on the heart of poverty in the country. And by the way, the Obama administration based this on a program that gave residents, quote, access to nutrition counseling, exercise classes, parenting classes, pre-kindergarten programs, charter schools, community centers, and tax preparation assistance, and job seeking stuff. You know what the opportunity zones do? You know what they do in entirety? The only thing that these so-called opportunity zones are, they're opportunities for the investors. Because if they lose money, they can write it off on their taxes. And if they make money, they get a tax break on their investment. It requires no moral character or decision or anything at all. It requires no extra worth. And who says it's actually going to get spent there? Who says anybody's actually going to take advantage of it? I can make the basketball court in my neighborhood the slam dunk zone. But if nobody does it or can do it or bothers to play basketball, what does that mean? Opportunity zones. The promise zones actually had stuff they were doing. Good God.
Also, and you're always under attack, but then you came out with these reforms. Let's talk about police reforms you announced yesterday.
You mean the toothless version of anything the Democrats came up with? It's like basically the Democrats say, no chokeholds, outlaw chokeholds. You're like, outlaw chokeholds, unless your life is in danger, and it's up to you to decide whether that is. And there's really no standard on that. We're going to put a commission together to see if we can come up with a standard of whether or not that's a standard or not. Get out of here.
Well, we did, and if you look at the previous administration, and frankly, many administrations, they did nothing on this.
Nothing. They did nothing. Really? They did nothing. You don't say. Okay. They did nothing. In early September 2014, as unrest gripped Ferguson, Missouri, over the fatal shooting of by police of a black teenager, then Attorney General Eric H. Holder Jr. announced that the Justice Department would investigate not just the incident, but the entire Ferguson Police Department. The investigation, Holder said, would explore how Ferguson officers used force, how they stopped and searched people, and even how they treated people while held in city jail. For a city that had just seen violent demonstrations over police treatment of black people and would come to see more, the move was a welcome development. This, by the way, became the standard by which they did civil rights investigations. The Justice Department has initiated a civil rights investigation into the death of George Floyd, but Barr has not responded to the calls, including from all Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee, for a broader pattern or practice investigation, which was part of what they put in place. But go on. Tell me how they did nothing.
We did criminal justice reform. We did tremendous opportunity. If you look at the opportunities we've given everybody, but the opportunity zones have been...
He forgot the name opportunity zones. He just thought he had the word opportunity written somewhere. There's an opportunity for rich people to invest in black neighborhoods, I suppose, is what he's thinking. But if they lose money, the taxpayer picks it up. If they make money, they keep it. It's kind of different than actually creating programs that help people get out of poverty.
Incredible. It's been one of the great things in terms of investment in areas and in terms of...
Based on what? What is that standard? How is it... Has anybody been seeing these sweeping opportunity zones changing the face of neighborhoods left and right? No.
Unemployment, it's been incredible. Before the Chinese plague came to us, the African-American, if you look at the African-American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment, women, everything, we had the best unemployment numbers in the history of our country. We had almost 160 million people working. Nobody's been close. And now we're doing it again. You see that.
Yeah, the economy would have reached that point under the first 3 years of Obama if the Bush White House hadn't scuttled the economy and wrecked it entirely by basically collapsing a house of cards around credit default swaps. So if without any outside actors destroying the economy, it has a tendency to grow. Like if you look at the stock market from 1920 to now, it kind of moves up without these big weird bubbles and drops and wars and other shit. It tends to just climb like this. You know what's different about now and the end of the Obama era? Time. The only difference is that while this guy was watching the economy grow, you know, like he's standing there and go, hey, whatever you do, see that tree? Yeah. Keep watering it and it'll eventually produce fruit, but don't chop it down and don't piss on it. All right. And then he lets people chop at it and piss on it and it falls over and then he blames everybody and then the American people come in with a whole new tree, replace it, and he's like, look at the tree I planted.
Numbers coming back very strongly. But you're right, the previous administration did nothing.
Nothing. They did nothing. That's so weird that they just did nothing. It's amazing that how much nothing they did. That's weird.
I talked a lot. For 3 years, we did an investigation, and we've been proven right every step of the way.
No.
What Joe DeGenevis kind of shocked me the first time. He said, dirty cops, because I have a lot of family members that were in law enforcement, including my own parents in some form. And
in some form?
You know, I always said the 99%. I have an FBI button on me I wear every night. I have a CIA button for the good people of intelligence. You talked about the good cops. You know, there's a report tonight in Atlanta that the department is experiencing a higher than usual number of call-outs for the upcoming shift tonight. You've heard of the term blue flu. I opened the show with, well, who are you going to call if we defund the police or eliminate the police? That seems to be getting momentum in the country. That scares me. I don't like to know your feelings on it.
No, it isn't. Why don't you just make up more fantasies?
Well, Joe was referring, when he said dirty cops, I believe, to James Comey, and he was right about that one. And
Jesus Christ. What's the first thing out of the gate? Attack the FBI.
Abe and that group. So he was referring to them, but, you know, it's a different form. It's a different uniform. And
thanks, Jumpy.
You know, you have bad and you have great. You have cops and police and law enforcement. They're great people, and that's a vast, vast majority of them. And they do an incredible job, and they keep us all safe. And they love their country, and they don't want to make any mistakes. But they're under siege. There's no question about that.
They don't want to make any mistakes.
He worked on
That's a great way of putting it.
some things very closely with law enforcement, and a lot of it you had on your show. I noticed the other night you had it on your show. And whether it's the cams, you know, the dash cam and the body cam, which is a camera, basically.
Oh, is that what a body cam is? Guys, did you know that?
Sophisticated camera.
Oh, it's a sophisticated camera because it's on the body.
And other things. We have a lot of that in the bill, and it passed, and it's going to pass. A lot of things are happening right now, but I signed an executive order, and a lot of that is included in what the Republicans put out today. And the Democrats, all they do is complain. You know, they complain, but they've done nothing.
They complain that we take their ideas and cut out all the stuff where there would actually be legal recourse involved.
They do nothing. They want to defund and they want to abolish. They want to abolish police departments, and that's what
no
it's going to be. You know, with
as a Democrat, no.
Biden, if you look. If he ever
But ask Rand Paul if he thinks there should be cops.
got in, you'd be abolishing police. You could just watch, because he's not going to be.
Yeah, Biden's going to abolish police. That's a big anchor where he's come from his whole life.
Running anything. People around him will. And
thanks, Bean Toes. It's pretty hip.
We'll be abolishing police. They'll be getting rid of your Second Amendment very quickly. You will not have.
They're going to get rid of your Second Amendment. But if you need 60-round magazines, you're a shit shot. And you should not be firing a gun around other human beings in a country full of your fellow countrymen.
Second Amendment and many other things you won't have that you'd like to have.
You know, we're watching what's unfolding in Seattle, Mr. President, the autonomous zone, Chaz, Chops, the Summer of Love, as the mayor refers to it, potluck spaghetti dinners. You have
terrible. Potluck spaghetti dinners. What does the world come to? Nobody brings spaghetti to a potluck. It dries out. Do I bring the sauce too? Do I add it there? Potluck spaghetti dinners. Jesus. We defunded the police, and this is what we get? Spaghetti dinners? What is this bullshit?
Offered help to every governor that needs it, every mayor that needs it. They have out.
As long as they open up their state and act like COVID is behind them.
Rejected it in states like New York, cities like New York, states like Illinois, cities like Chicago, and that includes Seattle, where, you know, city blocks now have been taken over. And by the way, they built their own version of a wall, interestingly enough, to keep people out. And you keep offering to help, and they keep rejecting.
Free tie-dye? If you can't charge for it, it's shit tie-dye. I'm just saying.
That help. And it's really the governor and the mayor's job, but there might come a moment where you might not have an option. I assume.
Yeah, you know why that barrier's there, by the way? So some asshole redneck MAGA wannabe doesn't drive a car through a bunch of people who are having a sit-in.
We would know when that moment exists. Why do you think they keep rejecting your help? Because it seemed to work in Washington, D.C. and Minneapolis when they did accept it.
Because the governor of the state of Washington is weak and the mayor is weak. And what they're doing is setting a precedent that's never been.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's just the weakness.
Before.
If they were strong, they would just walk down the street with guns and shoot everybody and frighten everyone back into their house. Because that's what you do in a strong dictatorship.
And these people that are taking over this incredible piece of real estate are obviously very good.
Piece of real estate. If that doesn't shape up how he looks at America, there you go.
Real estate, maybe better than I was because they paid nothing. They just took it over, and the police are somehow told not to be there. I'm sure they'd do a good job if they were told to do a good job. I assume they're properly trained. But we would go in there if they want us in, and we will take it back very quickly. It should never be allowed to fester.
By what? Beating people and shooting them, or sicking dogs on them? What? Gas? What do you, mustard gas? You think we go there?
They're like it's festering right now. It's disgraceful.
Festering.
To our country, it's a disgrace.
Let's talk a little bit about your reaction to the two big cases. It seemed to be universal condemnation as it relates to George Floyd, and your thoughts on what were the charges that went down in Atlanta earlier today.
Is this supposed to be, is this a shot, was this a live shot of the White House while he's on the phone? Is that supposed to be him in like the corner with the lights on? Like you could almost see him on the phone.
Well, the George Floyd case, nothing has to be said. I watched that. I couldn't really watch it for that long a period of time. It was over 8 minutes, and who could watch that? But
I don't know, a jury?
It doesn't get any
President of the United States out of a sense of duty for what the experience was. I mean, lots of people watched the whole thing.
More obvious, or does it get any worse than that? And I think it's a different kind of a case. And that man has some big problems. There's no question about it, the police officer, what he did. And I haven't met any, because I deal with law enforcement all the time, and I just left a big group of the top sheriffs and law enforcement people in the country, and nobody was sticking up for what he did. The event that took place yesterday was, I thought...
Listen again to the double speak here. Like that, what he did, like nobody was speaking up for him. It sounds like he's defending the guy.
It was a terrible situation, but you can't resist a police officer. And, you know, if you have a disagreement, you have to take it up after the fact. It was a very sad, very, very sad thing. And look, you take a look, it was out of control. The whole situation was out of control. I heard today and just got a report that the police officer's lawyer said that he heard a sound like a gunshot. And he saw
he's talking about Brooks now?
Flash in front of him. So that's an interesting, I don't know that I would have necessarily believed that, but I will tell you that's a very interesting thing, and maybe that's so. They're going to have to find out. It's up to justice right now. It's going to be up to justice. I hope he gets a fair shake, because police have not been treated fairly in our country. They have not been treated fairly. But, again, you can't resist a police officer like that, and they ended up in a very terrible disagreement, and look at the way
very terrible disagreement.
Ended. Very bad, very bad.
You know, Terry McAuliffe, you talked about in your interview with my colleague and friend Harris Faulkner, you talked about Joe Biden almost having compassion on him a lot of ways. Terry McAuliffe actually said, I'm fine with him staying in the basement. He only sees 2 people a day, his 2 body men. I'm fine with that.
What train of thought is this?
Which I think is a very unusual and unique way to run for president of the United States. To me, I think there are legitimate questions as it relates to mental alertness and, well...
You're saying this to Trump, actually.
Say stamina and strength and acumen. I would argue...
Really? Have you seen Trump read?
Just in the last 3+ years, your job is probably the hardest job in the world that I can see. I believe that to be true.
Well, there's hard and there's difficult.
Should that be an issue in the campaign?
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting issue, and he's been in the basement for a long time. I think
he met with protesters face to face. He had listening sessions. He's had speeches. They don't cover it as much. You hid in the bunker. He was on the street while Trump was in the bunker.
And
yeah, he can drink a glass of water by himself with one hand without assistance.
Beautifully. He's not running his campaign. People are running his campaign. I see quotes all the time that he said this, he said that about me. And they're long, beautiful, flowing sentences. I said, Joe didn't make that statement. And Joe doesn't even know the statement was made. But they are leaving him there, and at some point he's going to have to come out for air. And
did you see the Biden-Sanders, the last debate between the two of them? Enjoy.
I think, look,
he's gonna stomp a wet hole in Trump, and everybody's gonna. The problem is they're doing a setup, unfortunately, with Biden the way people did with Bush back in the day, which is the expectation that he's going to be terrible or that somehow he's missed a step or all this kind of stuff. All this push about how Biden has dementia and yada yada that they've been pushing for a long time. When Biden comes out and just holds it together, he doesn't even have to try very hard. At the debates, he's going to go, why did Trump get his ass stomped by a guy who he was saying had dementia?
we've done a great job. We've done a great job. If you look back a few months to an economy that was the greatest of all time.
Oh, good Lord.
Everything we had was at records. Every no matter whether it's unemployment, whether it's the stock market, and now you look at what we're doing. I'm doing it all over again. And we have.
Oh, are you? See, I thought the American people had just dumped $6.4 trillion on the economy.
Turn it off, we would have lost.
So I thought I didn't realize it was you that was doing it. I thought the American people and the entirety of the Congress had dumped the entire budget of the Iraq and Afghanistan war on the economy in 6 weeks.
Millions of people. We did. We turned it off, and now we've started up again, and we're going to have an amazing year next year. We're going to have a great third quarter. We just had the best jobs numbers, the biggest job gain in history.
Yeah. When you're in a hole, hitting, when you're, all right.
And we just had the biggest.
We had, by percentages,
retail sales numbers in history for the last month.
In percentages up from what they were. That not in absolute numbers. We didn't beat Christmas last year by 15%, you dickhead.
So we're starting up, and it's going to be very, very strong. We're very close to a vaccine, even with it, without it. But I will tell you, we're very close to a vaccine, and we're very close to therapeutics, really good therapeutics. And
as opposed to the crap therapeutics. You mean the steroids that Kaylee was talking about? Dude, we're all going to be juicing? Bruh.
But even without that, I don't even like to talk about that because it's fading away. It's going to fade away, but having a vaccine would be...
It's going to fade away all by itself, guys.
Really nice, and that's going to happen.
It's going to just fade away. I heard it from the Chinese at their last meeting or whatever. It was just a way that they need to kill off some people, and they thought, hey, you want to borrow some of this disease from us? It can kill off some of the weak people amongst you.
So all these protests have been going on for weeks, and talk about social distancing kind of went away almost completely from what I can tell.
No, we were all going, folks, wear a mask.
There were many people I saw that were not wearing masks. And even some of the politicians now that are critical of you having a rally in Oklahoma on Saturday.
Because it's arranged and because it's enclosed and because you're putting, you're raising money off of it and the people don't need to gather. It's unnecessary because they're already on the team. They're already going to vote for you. It's not necessary. It's just an ego thing. Whereas protests are trying to change the direction of the country away from a way of death and destruction towards a positive sense for a lot of the folks involved, looters and anarchists accepted.
Saturday, now all of a sudden they're saying that it may not be safe. I understand temperatures are going to be taken. I understand people that...
Yeah, whether or not you're febrile is no indication of whether or not you have COVID-19.
So,
ask Dr. Fauci. Oh, right.
Signing a waiver. I understand that masks will be worn by people and even distributed. I think I read somewhere.
Yeah, ask him if he's going to wear one.
Maybe
in between when he's giving his speech and when he's not.
Should change the name of the rally and call it a protest, and maybe they will say it's okay.
See what I did there? If you call it protest, no one will care.
Yeah. Well,
it's so true.
To the protests, I mean, the protesters and anarchists and terrorists and looters and all of the people that were...
Terrorists and looters?
Marching on various locations over the last...
That's the problem we have with terrorists is all the marching they do.
Couple of weeks, that's died down. They've lost some energy. That's good. But because many of them don't even know what they're protesting, frankly.
Oh, yeah?
But you look at that, and they were...
Then why are you signing shit? Why are you signing bills or signing executive orders and the House and Senate are negotiating bills on changes to police tactics, if those people's marching didn't mean anything and most of them didn't know what they were marching about?
On top of each other, large numbers, pretty large numbers, and they were right on top of each other. And nobody complained. When you look at fake CNN, it's total fake. It's a fake news operation. And it's really like an extension of the Democrat Party. And then you look at MSDNC, which is...
He wanted to say, he was desperately wanting to say MSDNC.
DNC, Democrat National Committee. And
see what I did there? See, not, in case you think MSNBC, it's National Bolshevik Committee. It's in this.
You look at it and you see the way they talk. They never mention that. They don't talk about it. This is all you hear about. Oh.
Yeah, no, people are concerned about the disease spread in those areas. But since it's a spontaneous act, we don't have a baseline control over it. Whereas a rally is completely optional.
Oklahoma, what we're doing, we'll be in Tulsa. You have a great mayor and you have a great governor. Governor Stitt, I spoke to him yesterday. They're so excited about it that you have no idea. And we have had...
That's right. It's an excellent point, Can't Stop Lying. Many Americans are willing to risk their lives to resist fascism and dictatorships. No one complains because they see what's happening. This is what made America great in the first place. Exactly. People are risking their lives in these protests for something better, whereas the rallies are just a circle jerk of sycophants.
So many signups. You know, there are lines of people now, and we won't be there for 3 days. They have lines of people right now trying to get into the arena. I mean, they'll be there. They'll be early.
They're that dumb.
How many people
signed up? They'll be in one of those early front rows.
How many people signed up? Do you know?
Like 1 million people wanted tickets.
Over 1 million people requested tickets. Well, there's just
the entire population of Tulsa requested tickets so they wouldn't show up to keep social distancing simply just by no one being in those seats.
Hunger for the rallies, and
it's a hunger for the rallies. They desperately want. When can we have those again, please?
I enjoy doing them, but they enjoy them more importantly than me. They enjoy them. It gives energy to everybody. And
it's not for me. It's for them, you know. Because people are starting, they need that hope. You know what I mean? It's you know, it's a great pineapple farm on its own, but unless we regularly drink the Kool-Aid, it's not really Jonestown.
We have tremendous enthusiasm. If you look at the polls, we're way ahead of Sleepy Joe in terms of enthusiasm. We have enthusiasm like they've never seen before, actually.
Yeah, there's an enthusiasm to vote against you.
And Joe has the lowest, I hear, enthusiasm on record. Now, they have a party, and the party believes in a lot of bad things. Open borders, sanctuary cities, open borders. Think of it. Supposing like at Tijuana, we're up to 212 miles of wall, and this is serious wall, and I'm going to be at the wall very soon. We're going to celebrate over 200, but it's 212 miles now. Nobody is getting through. And
replacement wall, nobody, like, we've never had a scaling problem in Tijuana. What are you talking about?
Very, very few people are coming through on our border. We have a tremendous border. But
yeah, Mexico is keeping Americans out.
Think of it, in Tijuana, Tijuana, Mexico, is one of the most infected places on earth. And we have a wall between Tijuana and San Diego. You know, it's like...
Yeah, it's been there forever.
Beautiful, very powerful wall. And California is very happy that we have it because they wouldn't have any numbers. They would.
Yeah, it's a port. It's an entry point, so they want to bottleneck the entry point. We don't need a wall across mountain ranges that no one could live through climbing.
Would have numbers like you wouldn't believe right now if we didn't have that. So we've done a great job. We were very early to the call, as you know, because you're one person that reports it, but. When we heard about it, I made the decision not to let people from China come in. We love people.
Except the 40,000 that did.
People from China, but they were having a tremendous problem. And then at the end of January, I said, you can't come in. You can't.
After 40 other countries and 3 airlines had stopped flights.
Come in. And we saved tens of thousands, and everybody, even our critics, give me credit for that, but we saved tens of thousands of lives, and then I banned Europe from coming in because Europe, many of the people that couldn't come here went to Italy and they went to Spain and France, and we had to ban Europe.
How's the Brazilian travel ban working?
We did that fairly shortly thereafter. So we've been very early, and our testing has been phenomenal, and we came up with ventilators that we're the kings of ventilators. We're making
king of ventilators.
thousands of ventilators a week.
And we're not testing nearly enough. And as we test people,
all our people have one.
We've been over this a bunch of times.
One person that needed a ventilator
and they couldn't get a ventilator. They just had to share it with somebody else who had a higher viral load.
Has not gotten one.
Part of the reason why people died was because they got their viral load increased because they were sharing a ventilator.
Single person that needed a ventilator got one, and it's been incredible. Now we're helping other countries because it's hard to make. They're expensive and they're big and they're
like I say, it's like building a car.
Very highly complex, and we're helping other countries. Many other countries, we're sending them ventilators.
Let me ask you. It was 10 days after the first
What was that question about? Where Biden is, or what Democrats were?
Case of corona in the U.S. when you had the travel ban. We hadn't had a quarantine in 50-plus years, is my understanding. Then the subsequent travel bans, you were called racist, xenophobic, hysterical, fear-mongerer.
Yeah, because you seem to think it was ethnically the Chinese people, not geographically people who'd been in the area.
That was 10 days.
Thanks, Philly Dana.
To the first case here. I'm told, according to my sources, that everybody that was advising you didn't think it was necessary.
No, that's not at all. They thought you can't just do that.
Models were wrong. Predictions were wrong all the way around.
And by the way, his source that he keeps talking about, he means Trump.
I don't know why they've been so wrong. China.
What you told me you wanted me to say as a de facto arm of the campaign, I will repeat right now so you know I'm agreeing with you.
Lied. What made you at that moment make that one decision? Because that seems critical to me.
Well, I was seeing information that China, Wuhan in particular, was very heavily infected. And I
was seeing the same thing in November.
Just said, look, why are we doing this? And let's see. And nobody knew anything about it at that time. We didn't know it affected the elderly much more so than children. That's why we have to open our schools in the fall. The children, the numbers are very, very
so that they can asymptomatically carry it to everyone.
Small, almost non-existent, and it's an incredible thing. Their immune system is very strong.
Is that why it is? Is it because of the strength of their immune system?
And
is that why, or does it have to do with puberty, or how people process stuff, or the impact on the immune system because it's been through so much as you're older? Is it cytokine storms because of your overactive immune system?
We have to get the schools open, and I'm sure they'll be open. I think most of them, if people are doing the right thing, they're going to be opening up schools. You have to have it. Too much of a strain in many ways and unfair to the children. But I just felt it was a heavily infected area, and how are we
You just felt that.
letting people into our country? Nobody knew that it was going to be that contagious. It's a
Yes, they did.
Contagious.
They were welding people into their apartments.
There's been nothing like this since 1917, over 100 years ago, where probably anywhere from 50 to 100 million people died. Probably ended World War I because all the soldiers, they were so sick. And
I don't know who told him that line, but he's been repeating it for weeks.
Probably that was the one thing. It ended World War I, very likely.
Yeah, that's what did it. If it hadn't been for the Spanish flu, Hitler would have won World War I, and we'd be a lot better off. Right?
But nobody had any idea it was going to be this kind of contagious. It's
scourge. Say scourge. Say scourge, please.
It's been really rough, but we've learned a lot, and we're doing really great in the laboratories. And we're gonna have a
We're doing really great in the laboratories.
vaccine.
Is that where is he calling from the lab right now?
Very soon.
John Bolton, who worked for you, has a book, and in that book, he's claiming that you asked China for help with your re-election, your trade representative.
How would you know, Sean? Do you have a copy of the book? I mean, there's a lawsuit. How do you know what's in the book?
By the way, the U.S. trade representative.
Why would you read this filth and these lies?
Is now just came out with a statement.
Where'd you get a copy? Did you get a copy from the White House?
And claiming that that is false and denies it.
By the way, Sean Hannity, for those of you just joining us, is interviewing a building.
There were just...
Trump couldn't be bothered to be on camera for this, which I've always been, I don't understand. Is he in the actual spray tan booth right now? Is he on his bed just covered in crackers?
Recently released documents tonight and affidavits that says the NSC has determined that the information in the manuscript is classified as confidential, secret, top secret levels. Accordingly, the publication release of the room where it happened would cause irreparable harm because the disclosure of instances of classified information in the manuscript reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage or exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States. I went back, I think it was a month before he was fired, and I have a whole series of articles. I don't have time for them all. In an interview with my former fellow colleague, Greta Van Susteren, Bolton said, I think one thing...
Former? Gee, why isn't she at Fox anymore?
You could be sure of, this is just before he got fired, is President Trump's not going to make the mistakes of prior administrations here that succumb to the idea that if you give them economic benefits, you automatically count on them for following through with their commitments. He said on your views on...
And then you did.
Russia, the president gets criticized for being soft on Russia. I'm still waiting to see evidence of that. He's authorized us to take very strong action against election meddling by anybody, strong action against intrusions into our information technology systems by countries like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran.
Yeah, while broadening the impact of that effort so as to scatter any unified force that we might have.
What is your reaction to this charge and this claim of the president, and what now the government is saying basically it's compromising national security is the way I interpret that?
Well, first of all, nobody has been tougher on Russia or China than I have. Nobody.
Yeah, Trump got pissed because when we expelled the Russians from the United States, the spies that were over here, he was told we're going to, I think it was somewhere between 28 and 60 people were expelled from the country. After he found out that other countries had expelled like 6 or 8 people, he was livid, screaming at people that he only wanted to do something that was on par with what other people were doing instead of getting rid of the real villains in the country, the real spies. He wanted to only broom out the 6 that were in there. He was pissed off, screaming at people. And he has to follow through the budgetary aspects of bills that he's actually signed. The sanctions that went through were approved by Congress. He has to implement them. You don't get points for being extra tough for the shit you try to wiggle out of and can't.
Even close.
Thanks, Jim.
China's paying us billions of dollars a year. They never gave us 10 cents, and Biden...
Oh, my God, and tariffs.
Son walked away with $1.5 billion to manage.
Jealous.
Making hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on it. So
you must be a good businessman then. Gee whiz.
Nobody has been...
So we're not... So investing in or having investment from China is illegal in your estimation. Proof of some sort of either criminal activity or, I don't know, like money laundering, those kind of things. So that if you do that, you are that. That's what we're to understand. Okay, explain your $300 million in loans from China. What are they investing in? When are those loans due? When do you have to pay them back? I'll wait. Building.
Tough on China.
Thank you, Carl.
Nobody has been tough on Russia like I have. And that's...
What the hell did Chinese tariffs and Hunter Biden have to do with how tough you think you are on Russia? By the way, while you made Ukraine, basically you pantsed them in front of Russia, leading to the deaths of Ukrainians.
That's in the record books, and it's not even close. The last administration did nothing on either. And then in terms of...
Did nothing on either? They put in place the sanctions you had to carry out.
Bolton, he broke the law. He was a washed-up guy. I gave him a chance.
Thank you, Rebecca.
He couldn't get Senate confirmed, so I gave him a non-Senate confirmed position where I could just...
Yeah, that's why. You hold the Senate, you can't even get your own people through. That's the only guy you could come up with? How many people, there's 340 million people in this country. How many people at think tanks and, I mean, literally conservatives, former Congress people, former members of the intelligence community, all this kind of stuff, and you could pull any of them. You yank Bolton back in, can't get him confirmed by your own party in the Senate, and that's our fault?
Put him there, see how he worked. And
told you the mustache was a mistake.
I wasn't very enamored. He went into the
Thank you, Rebecca.
Middle East. He was one of the big guns for let's go into Iraq, and that didn't work out too well, and I was against
And you hired him.
that a long time ago before I was ever even thinking about doing what I'm doing now.
Then why did you bring him in?
But he was one of the people wanted to go to Iraq. When I asked him about it, I said, you know, about a month in, when he was about a month in, I said, what do you think? Do you think you made a mistake there? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I said, explain that one. So the terrible.
You hired him. Bolton's an asshole. So are you. You deserve each other.
Terrible.
Yes, thanks for the super hearts. Those of you on Periscope, if you want to throw those my way, I'm not quite sure how they work, but I appreciate them. And Twitch, you guys are awesome.
Thing that he did, but he broke the law.
Love you, YouTube.
Oh, very simple. I mean, as much as it's going to be broken, this is highly classified. That's the highest stage. It's highly classified information, and he did not.
That's the highest level, is highly classified. We've got top secret. We got above top secret. We got A1 top secret, and then we got highly classified.
Have approval. That's come out now very loud and very strong.
What?
And I appreciate Ambassador Lighthizer in front of a committee today on an unrelated topic. They asked him that question. One of our friends in the Democrat Party was very nice to ask him the question. And then he said, absolutely not. Trump was tough on China, but nobody's been tough like me. Nobody's been tough like me on China. We're taking in right now billions and billions of dollars from China.
No, we're not. Their economy's in the shit. Our economy's in the shit.
A lot of it to the farm.
I notice how he still says we're taking in tariff money on the same level we were. Thank you, Hollyberry, for the purple mustache. And thank you, Mountain Bound.
Because the farmers
The kitties will appreciate that. They're on special food. The kittens, apparently, the little black one that I showed you is adorable, but he was having stool issues, let's just say. So we had to get some special food for them, which I thank you, Super Chatters, for helping us with that, because you did. And he's doing much better. They're definitely solid now, TMI.
Targeted by China. Nobody's ever done that.
Wasn't it $500 billion for just 2 years alone, if I remember the first part of the deal? Not insignificant, and all the other trade deals.
It's $250 a year. It's been going on for it's the same shit.
Let me go.
That's the exact same number. What are you talking about? Are we now taking the 500 million number that he supposedly is talking about and spreading it out over what, 5 years, 10 years? What is it?
Thing that kind of was interesting to me. Everybody knows your opinion on the anthem and kneeling, and you've been very outspoken about it. But
I'm finally recovering this. Finally, we can get something. By the way, just in case you're wondering how I feel about this. As a Democrat, as a lifelong Democrat who's been voting Democrat since I was 18 years old, I am against the burning or desecration of the flag. I wouldn't do it. However, I think the value of the flag itself comes in the fact that you can actually burn and desecrate it as an act of speech. It's like our flag, the United States flag, what makes it special is it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of flags. If you strike it down, it only becomes more powerful. But if you protect it and you don't let it be destroyed and you try to create laws against it or try to punish people for doing so, then ultimately you limit the laws and protections it represents, and therefore you diminish its worth. Also, kneeling during the national anthem as a sign that you cannot move forward, which is what the idea behind the Colin Kaepernick kneeling is about. But also, for me, kneeling has always been representative of honor. Soldiers do it all the time. People do it when they are kneeling before someone they give great respect for. Knights used to do it in front of King Arthur. We do it in front of our flag and in front of our fallen and in front of the very principles that we support the most. So kneeling for those principles, in spite of the misuse of the flag or the misuse of the anthem, for example, acting like it represents some sort of vapid, empty promise, instead of saying, no, I will kneel for those very traits. Those are what's important, not the symbol itself. And those traits are what make that symbol important. And if you try to diminish those things, then you diminish the worth of the flag. That's a reason to kneel. Oh, Templeton's a rat. Thank you so much. Oh, that's hilarious. Yes, for all for that, that'll go for you know, the money I have to raise to send Nestor to college. All of the Nestors. That's really sweet. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ninka Crinkles, as well, translating my Periscope Super Hearts. I appreciate you for jumping over, Ninka Crinkles. That's very sweet. That's awesome.
Comments you made on Colin Kaepernick about if he deserves to play in the NFL, if he has the playing ability, if he, you know, and you're right, he did start off, by the way, as a great quarterback. I mean, actually amazing couple of years. You say didn't end up in terms of being as good a player in some of his later years, but you said he was terrific his first 2 years. And then he wasn't playing up to snuff. You said the answer is absolutely. I would, love to see him get another shot. And obviously he has to play well. If he can't, no. But you would like to see him get another shot. I found that interesting.
Yeah, if he has the ability. Look, he can only get it if he has the ability. They're not going to lose games because of, wanting to be politically correct or whatever term you might, I don't know if that's politically correct or the opposite. But if he has the ability, look, he was a great rookie, and his second year was great. And then after that, he started going downhill rather rapidly, and then he was out.
It's almost like his game was thrown off by the fact that members of his community were being killed, and it was taking the wind out of his sails a little bit, and he was having to wake up living a lie and pretend he believed something that that a symbol in front of him or a song that was being sung lived up to the promise of the very thing he was fighting for. Gee, I wonder how that would throw your game off a little.
Football, and then he started suing everybody, and I think
he started suing everybody?
Made a lot more money doing that than he did.
Is it wrong to lay the flag on the ground? Yes, it is. You don't lay the flag on the ground, and if it's been on the ground, you're supposed to burn it. I'm a Boy Scout.
The football.
That's the irony. That's how you get rid of a desecrated flag, is you burn it.
But it was if he has the ability, if somebody would take him. I think. Look, I know a lot of these owners. If they had somebody that was going to win games, they'll sign him. It doesn't matter who they are. They'll sign him. And, I don't like also relatively another subject. But
thank you, Scooter.
I figure it's your next question.
Appreciate it.
When the national anthem plays and our flag, the great American flag, is raised, you should not be kneeling. You should be standing.
No. You can kneel for the ideals when standing for the flag is a mockery of the meaning of that flag itself.
With your hand on your heart.
He is kneeling for the ideals of the flag, not standing for the posturing bullshit, window dressing, branding aspect of the flag, the only part that Trump understands.
Or saluting, but they should not be kneeling. They can protest enough, and I saw the NFL get very weak. I saw Drew Brees, who's a warrior, great quarterback.
Oh, my God. We're going to see him whimper about Drew Brees apologizing for talking out of his ass.
A fan of his. I'm a fan of his.
Thank you, Lipschitz.
And I saw him make this beautiful statement, and then the next day he retracted the statement. He talked about his father and his grandfather fighting in the war for our country, our flag, and then the next day he retracted it. I just don't get that. But you have to...
Yeah, you wouldn't, because to you it's branding. To you, the country is real estate, and the flag might as well be the McDonald's M. You understand shit.
And when the flag goes up, and I think they'll lose a lot of fans and a lot of support in the NFL. It already happened before. I thought they learned their lesson, but I think it's going to happen again. And I was surprised at Roger Goodell, that he would have done what he did and made the statement that he made. Nobody was even asking for it.
Yeah, that's because you don't see anyone online who isn't kissing your ass.
Let me go back to COVID and the economic recovery. You did mention, just like the coronavirus models, predictions, they were so off base. I mean, shocking.
No, they weren't. They're going to be dead on. Without mitigation, or with full mitigation, the death toll by August was set to be somewhere between 150 and 200,000. We are absolutely on track for that number. And with the reopening too early, that number will be higher than that. We are already at 120,000 dead in 7 weeks.
So, but with all of that said, and nobody predicted, they were predicting, I think it was a 9 million job loss in May, and you ended up gaining 2.5 million.
No, they didn't. That was a miscalculation. Don't pretend jobs are there. That's why the stock market went up. It's all shaky. I don't know why. Maybe it's because you're talking out of your ass about the economy as well.
Then you had a record retail sales at 18%.
Yeah, because during the transition from March and April, a bunch of retail companies found out ways, by the way, to sell their shit on Amazon.
We see in a Gallup poll that you're doing better even now on this issue than Obama ever did at any point of his presidency.
No. What, among Republicans?
How worried about you?
That you could kill. This is the Republican Party. Trump can oversee the death of 121,000 Americans, and they still support him more than Obama during times when he did stuff they actually are for.
Are you about, well, we know it's when, not if, in terms of hotspots emerging, and we've now been dealing with them. How confident are you that we're able to get on them quick enough so that we don't ever find ourselves in a position,
thank you, Melinda,
again, to have to shut down, a big portion of the economy in the country, and that would be, again, the cure can't be worse than the disease, right?
Excuse me, the phrase is the cure can't be worse than the problem. I don't know where I don't use the word disease because I call it plague, I call it COVID, whatever you want to call it, but I don't say disease.
Well, we'll get on it. That's right. My original statement, the cure can't be worse than the disease itself. And
no, you said problem.
We'll get on it quickly. We're working with 50 governors. Some
but thank you for correcting him on that, Hannity. You're the only person who could.
Of whom are really outstanding, like in Oklahoma.
While you're at it, teach him how to pronounce scourge.
As an example. We're working with the governors, and we're working with local representatives and mayors, and by
the way, we're almost to the end, and I want to thank you guys for joining me. Don't forget the radio shows tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time on WCPT and here. Johnny Million will be with us. We'll be taking calls, all that kind of stuff. Shows on tomorrow. And thank you to our patrons. Richard Custer, Patreon, assemble!
Supplying them what they need, including the ventilators. Now we don't need any, no matter what. We have that taken care of.
Thank you, Hollyberry.
We're in great shape to put out I used to call them the embers or the flames. They flare up in certain areas a little bit, but I think we'll...
Like the hemorrhoids. I call them the hemorrhoids. I call it...
Put them out very quickly, and we won't be closing the country again. We won't have to do that. But at the beginning, I tell you, if we didn't do what we did, we made all the right moves, Sean, we would have lost anywhere from probably...
Oh, my God. If we didn't do anything, if we did... Shit.
1.5 minimum. Now you have to understand that's...
We would have lost 2 million people if I'd have just stuck my head in the sand and if there was no president at all. If we were just a loose-knit group of tribes, we'd be wiped out like the Aztecs when they met Cortez.
10 times. Well,
but it's 2020.
We're talking about
Thanks,
now
John.
10 times.
I will bring in a kitten at the end of this broadcast. Camden is indeed, he's a Cub Scout.
That with all the loss multiplied times 10, that's at a minimum, and you could have gone up to 3.5 or more million people, and that's many times more. So we closed it. We also learned a lot about it. Who would attack?
Did we learn? What did we learn? Like you can't shove a light bulb up someone's ass and cure it. That was an uncomfortable 24 hours.
Different people, but it doesn't attack the young as we...
Everybody asked me why Kayleigh McEnany looks like a lamp. I gotta be honest.
But it does attack senior citizens, older people, especially if they have a problem with their heart, if they have diabetes,
Like you have?
they get attacked violently by this horrible disease.
Yeah, really? Does it steal their purse and hit them with a rock? You mean, is it get? Are you gonna? Is there gonna be COVID reform after this? That Obama did nothing to. I'm gonna ban chokeholds by the virus unless the virus feels like its life is in danger.
China should have.
Yeah, good point, Can't Stop Lying. The elderly are more damaged and susceptible to every disease. If you hit two people with a car, the older person is probably going to suffer the most damage.
Kept it where it was. They could have easily stopped it. They either lost control, they either
The difference between a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout? Age.
suffered great incompetence, something happened, or...
Yes, Trump has diabetes. I don't care what anybody says. Trump is a diabetic. They're treating it, or it's untreated diabetes. Dude's diabetic.
I don't know. The worst thing would be is...
Prove me wrong. Let's see his medical records. Now.
If they knew this was going to happen, because other than just tonight, I heard, and yesterday, it hit Beijing to a certain extent, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, they had a flare up there. Yeah. It's not over there. It didn't just fade away. They welded people into their apartments. They blocked off an entire city with 11 million people in it. They built like holding facilities. I won't even call them hospitals. Holding facilities in Wuhan, like 3 of them, to basically hold these folks. And still, 6 months later, it's now in Beijing.
Just hit Beijing. But other than that, they've kept it inside and,
Yeah, that's what they've done.
except when it came to letting it hit the rest of the world.
Only
That's weird. It's funny that they would let's just release it they gave it to America and they're like, it'll never come back. And then, all right.
139 days till Election Day. Reince Priebus was on the show the other night saying maybe you and Joe Biden,
Thank you.
if he gets out of his basement, can have more
Thank you much. Thank you so much, Steve.
than the usual 3 debates that a president would have. Would you like that? And or do you like it the way it is? And do you have any fear that Joe's going to try and duck him? We only have 30 seconds, sir.
Right. I think he's not going to show up, but I'm fine but I'll do as many as they want, but 3. We're also going to fight to limit what it's going to, I'll just talk out of my ass and bluster right now, and then when we get closer, I'll come up with a reason why I don't have to show up or why I don't have to be on camera the entire time because of I sniff too much.
Yeah, I would frankly like it. I can tell you who'd like it. His television would like it. Your companies would like it. But I would say that would be fine if they'd like to do it. I'm open to whatever they want to do, Sean. Get the word out.
Get the word out. That's what it is. Yeah, it's all just PR at this point.
Sir, for being with us. We appreciate it. Really troubling times, but we'll get through it. We're Americans. Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does he put on the same color orange that the president wears whenever he has him on as a guest in case he's watching? So the president doesn't look at him, look in a mirror and go, what the fuck happened to my face?
Very much, Sean.
Thanks, John. Thanks for being an under the table paid volunteer for the campaign. Thanks so much. So guys, should I go get a kitten? Hold on one second. Let me see if I can go pick up a kitten for you. Where are we frozen? Do we hold there? Let's see. Hold on. Thanks, Grim. That's amazing. Welcome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Get in here. I don't know why it won't change. Sometimes it won't let me change. Look at that. Blech, over my shoulder. That's just horrifying. Get one of those windows. Okay. Oh, that was weird. Hold on. Hopefully we're still streaming, but I'll be right back. Be right back. Hold on. I'm going to go get a kitten. Unless they're all asleep. See, we're sneaking. Kitten's all asleep. Oh, yep, there they are. You're so pretty. I'll bring a full-size cat. Hi, Maddie. Sorry. You're being volunteered. So I'm not going to wake up the kittens, but they've grown so much. I'm going to show it. Everybody's expecting to see a cat, and so you've gotten volunteered. There you go, baby. Maddie, such a sweetheart. Such a pretty girl. She's such a pretty girl. You are. You're such a pretty girl. Thanks so much. So thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the show. We have our regular Saturday radio show. Please join us here, infotainmentwars.com. Share the show with your friends if you could. Do everything Can't Stop Lying tells you to do within reason or within your ability. If you can become a patron, please consider it. It would really help us out. Wouldn't it, Maddie? It would. If you can't and you can't afford any of this stuff right now because times are tight and you're worried about your future and all that stuff, then don't worry about it. We'll be here for you every day, doing a show, joking our way through this, dealing with this nonsense as best we can, using humor and joy and doing it long form so nobody can accuse me of like, you cut out all the context. Wambulance bullshit. I will be here giving you a full show every single day. We'll do the radio show tomorrow. You guys are lovely. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Say bye, Maddie. Hold on. Let's hop over here. You guys have a wonderful night. There you go. Maddie's such a good kitty. You probably can't hear me because you're on the mic. Say bye, Maddie. Hold on. I'm going to sign us off there. Bye, everybody. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. We'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Bye. I can't do my shutdown screen because that software froze.